Kay Whitt, designer for Serendipity Studio, and today we're going to be talking about making sturdy handles for bags. That is one of the most important components of a bag. I find that handles that are not well attached or well made are one of the first things can fail on a bag, and we don't want that. We want the handle to be able to handle, no pun intended, as much weight as we want to put in the bag. So I've brought some samples here with me I want to share with you today. Over here I've got a really thin handle because this bag is smaller. It is made in exactly the same way as this wider handle up here. This super wide one down here, and then this one and this one are the same. So the reason that I like to make handles the way that I do, I leave all the seam allowances intact. That way the handle has this full thickness all the way through it. If you trim those down, then you might get a little bit of a lump or a bump in your handle, and we want to leave all that fabric. This is the one time that bulk is good. We want to leave the bulk in the handle so that it is sturdy and can handle all the extra stitching that we're going to apply to it. So let's get started. I've just got some short segments of fabric here today because the tabs that I make, as you will see here on the sides of my bag, are made exactly the same way as my handles are, and so for the sake of time we're going to just do a short version so that you can get a feel for my process here. So I've got some, this particular fabric is 2 3/4 inches wide, and before we go any further on that, the way that I calculate the finish width of a handle is I like to measure the space inside of my hardware. And so for this particular one, there is 1 inch and 3/8 available space. I like my handle to be snug. I don't want it to be too large and I don't want it to be too thin. So what I decided I wanted finished was 1 inch and 3, right out 1 inch and 3/8 for the width when it's done. So all you have to do is decide the finished width of your handle and then double that amount, and that's the width that you need to cut. So for 1 inch and 3/8 finished, we'll cut 2 3/4 wide. So that's what these are. I've got some lightweight interfacing. I always use lightweight interfacing on the back side of my handles unless I'm using a twill type fabric, and then I might only interface half of the handle because then you're getting into more bulk because the fabric is thicker. So on these, I've already got some interfacing already fused to the wrong side of the fabric. This is just regular cotton quilting fabric, so I have fully interfaced the back sides of these. Notice that I've got an overlap here because it really doesn't matter if you have a solid piece of interfacing. If you have to piece it, that's fine. Just overlap it a little bit so that you don't have any gaps anywhere on the back side. So we'll start by putting these right sides together, and then we're going to take it to the machine and we're going to stitch with a 1/2 inch seam. Now on a wider strap or handle, I usually use a 1/2 inch seam allowance. On a handle this thin, sometimes I go down to a 1/4 inch or 3/8 just so that I have a little more to work with once I've completed the seam. So let's go over to the machine and get this stitched together. And I've got a great, fast, super fast machine with to work with today. I'm really excited about. So I'll try not to go too fast with it. So we'll get started here. I'm just going to back stitch to get started, and we're going to follow a 1/2 inch seam allowance. I love that speed. Okay, cut our threads, and now I'm ready to press this seam open. So we'll go over to our iron, and I'm going to have the wrong side facing up. I'm going to open that seam, and we'll just give it some steam here. Press that open all the way down. And you know, I'm doing a short version here, but if I were doing one of these with an adjustable handle, then this might be two lengths of fabric sewn together. It just really depends on what the function of the handle is. You might want, if you're using for crossbody, you want a longer strap. If you're just doing over the shoulder, then it can be a shorter strap. It really just depends on the function you're wanting from it. So now I've pressed both sides. I'm going to flip back over to the wrong side. Now this is the part that's really important. No matter what the width of the handle, this is done the same way. The cut edge is folded over, and that edge meets the edge of my seam. So I'm going to press all the way down. I'm going to repeat that same process on the other side. Okay, now that those have been folded over and pressed, I'm going to fold the whole thing along my seam in half. Now you can see how many layers I'm building here by not trimming that seam. Okay, and now we'll go back to the machine and stitch it together. I like to start with my open edge first. I'll come down the seam last. So we'll get started. I'm going to edge stitch this first. I'm just going to ride the edge of that strap. Pivot here on the end and come down the other side. Pivot one more time. Now I'm going to add that second row of stitching. Usually it's about, again, it depends on the width of the handle on this particular one. I'm going to do about a 1/4 inch away from that original stitching. And we'll repeat that same process down the other side of the handle. Just look at that beautiful stitch. Love it. And our handle is stitched. So I like to take it back to the ironing board, iron it one more time. And look at that, beautiful, both sides, love it. Now that our handle, I've shown you the process for making a handle, here's the other tricky part. Sometimes in using these double loop sliders, or this one can be called a buckle, they can be kind of tricky to install. So I brought a bag with me, and you'll see here on this end that I've already just done a normal strap attachment. On this other end, I've left it free so that I can demonstrate this for you today. The first thing that we want to do is feed the strap through the buckle, like so. And you want to make sure that it's, facing right side up. And then we'll turn it, and we're going to go through the loop. I like to go from the outside in, like that. And then I'll pull up some slack in this buckle. And then this part is going to go underneath over that bar. I've got to pull up just a little more slack here, and just like that. Okay, then this part will fold back on itself and back on this side. So what I would do is take it back to the machine and stitch across that end. I'm going to pin it just so that I can demonstrate to you how this is adjustable. And as you can see, it can slide long. You can make it short. It's fabulous. It just makes for such a professional finish. and a very useful handle. And that's how you do a sturdy handle that can also be adjustable.